Yeah, it's great, bro. I love the damn thing. You know what I really like about this stuff down here is that there's a real kind of like, there's no attempt to kind of blend the nuts or the clips or anything to make it look kind of smooth and nice, like easy on the eyes. It's just, it's almost like put together like in a really angry way. It's just like,
well, I think it went pretty smoothly overall, the installation part of it. There were a couple moments where it got a little frightening as the big pieces were skidding around and then the straps that were lifting it into place, but I think it went pretty well. It's so heavy that it could, a lot of things could go wrong, but Cedric had it under control.
Next time you visit the Crocker Museum in downtown Sacramento, even if you don't go in, you won't be able to miss the newest piece of art there. Today, the crews installed this 26-foot-tall, 6-ton sculpture. It's called Jacob's Ladder. Workers use cranes to lift the two main beams and then bolt them downward into the museum's courtyard.
The steel and bronze piece was done by San Francisco artist Cedric Wentworth. This is his first work to appear in Sacramento. Wentworth hopes it will inspire a mixture of feelings.
So I want people, when they're walking by, I want them to look at the sculpture and feel something emotionally first. Maybe they, because they're wondering exactly what it is, they're drawn in. I want the sculpture to ask more questions than it answers.
You'll have plenty of opportunity to check out Jacob's Ladder. The sculpture is on loan to the Crocker Art Museum for at least 3 years.
Cedric's work is figurative work, but with abstract surfaces that make you want to look beneath that surface to see what really is the nature of that figure. Being an engineer, I found Cedric's sculpture and his paintings really fit my desire to escape from engineering.
I met Cedric through George Blair, which is why Cedric is now in my collection, because I think his work is going to be meaningful and even more valuable as time goes on. I think that a lot of people miss what I feel I'm seeing because they're looking for images of dogs and cats and little pink houses, and there's a lot more to it.
In order to deal with the museum, one has to establish a reputation that the work that he's proposing to gift to a museum is worthy of that museum and worthy of its collection. Now, oftentimes museums aren't familiar with the work of an artist, and if they're not familiar with it, if they've never seen it, they don't necessarily want it. And so I think one of the things that I've been able to do with Cedric's work is to sort of provide a bridge between him as an artist and between the museum curators.
I'm really honored to have a piece here in the museum, a sculpture called Cubic Composition. The piece has elicited a whole range of reactions from people. Some women have looked at the sculpture and commented that they were confused about my intentions. Looked at from a distance, it just looks like a piece of minimal sculpture, and then when you look closer and you actually look through the slots and see this figurative form inside, it completely changes the work. You may have seen it already and yet not. The metal box with a nude sleeping woman inside in the Fig Garden Village shopping center. Unless you pause to look through the slats, you would not even know it was a work of art. Once you see, how can you not ask yourself what it means? What was the artist thinking? Why was such an unusual piece placed in a shopping center? Of course, the point may simply have been to encourage us to think. Since art is often a metaphor, my mind started toying with whether the feminine side of our community is free to express itself. Is it locked inside a box? Is it sleeping? And what would happen if it awakened and broke free?
I just think it's interesting because it's just a woman chilling there and you don't know whether or not something happened to her. She's fell asleep or whatnot.
In my opinion, it represents imprisonment. She doesn't look happy. She's obviously enclosed in a box.
It just reminded me of it might be something to do with the Holocaust. The entrapment, the numbers on the side of the, of the encasement.
It's kind of a satire on on packing boxes. It's a common everyday design, and I'm in favor of that kind of thing.
It'd be better outside the container.
I would like to go ying, 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 and lift the top off.
Oh man, I don't like this thing. I changed my mind. It's sexist. What is she doing in a box? It's the context, it's the environment. If it were in a museum, it would say something else.
The more upsetting, the more thought-provoking it is. We have to learn history. I think it's very important, and I think art teaches us history.
I've been in the art business around 25 years. Here at OES Fine Art, I'm one of the consultants. With Cedric's work, I see a very traditional form, almost classical poses, classical forms, but reinterpreted with a modern eye. Cedric's work has an honesty, and I think it resonates. If art is an expression of individuality, it either does one of two things. It makes a statement of its own, or it causes you to look within yourself for a statement. The best art, I think, does both, and Cedric's work does that. It presents a statement, a very straightforward statement, but at the same time, it does challenge you. It's not simply pretty pictures or pretty forms. You really need to look at these to understand the process.
My work is not designed for a limited group. What I would like is for my work to speak to a broad audience and be relevant. It should stir up questions of how free, quote unquote, free we are as a society, and how we feel caged in. You know, we are supposedly free, and yet we're never satisfied. There's always a gnawing discontent. And my work addresses the awkwardness between us and this environment that supposedly we've created to make our lives better. In the end, it doesn't matter who produces the work. What matters is what we get from the artwork. And we are only going to be interested in the work if it continues to be relevant to the society that we are a part of. The work shouldn't just be in museums. It shouldn't just be in galleries. You see music videos of these artists, these musicians, and they're in the desert, and they're in these unusual locations. Why aren't we doing this as artists? Why are we always shooting ourselves in the foot by appealing to such a limited audience? So we need to take our work to the streets. We need to take our work to the desert. We need to take our work to the forest. We need to put the sculpture and the painting and the fine art out there, and we need people to look at it and relate to it. And we need to do this by whatever means we have at our disposal.